Bathroom. Ow! Enough with the acorn, squirrel! Sand wasps of the genus Cerceris are found on all continents. There are 880 currently described species worldwide and about 86 species in North America. Females nest in the ground and provision their young with adult beetles. In this video, we will take a closer look at 4 species from eastern North America: the stout Cerceris fumipennis, the small widespread Cerceris nigrescens, the long slender Cerceris halone, and the small eastern Cerceris atramontensis. As I mentioned, the females of Cerceris are predators of adult beetles, usually weevils in the family Curculionidae, although other beetles are sometimes used, like leaf beetles or metallic wood-boring beetles. The prey are stung, paralyzed, and deposited into an already completed burrow. Females generally provision with several prey items before sealing the burrow. The first report of the genus in North America began with Thomas Say. In 1837, Say described 2 Cerceris wasps from Indiana, one of which he named Cerceris fumipennis for its dark, smoky wings. Cerceris fumipennis is a medium to large wasp, black with yellow markings. It ranges across much of eastern North America. Unlike many Cerceris that hunt weevils, fumipennis females are known to hunt metallic wood-boring beetles. Males are similar to the females but smaller, and of course, like all Cerceris, they sport the morphological characteristic of a compressed first abdominal segment. Fumipennis is on the large side for the genus. Females can reach 16 millimeters and males about 10 to 12 millimeters. Both sexes sport a heavily punctured cuticle and patches of white to silvery colored hairs. 19 years after Say, in 1856, Frederick Smith, working at the British Museum, described a small Cerceris he named nigrescens, from a single female specimen collected from Nova Scotia. Cerceris nigrescens is small and very widespread. Specimens from the west, like this one, have paler markings and are a bit smaller than their counterparts in the east. Females excavate a burrow in bare soil down anywhere from a few centimeters to a few meters to establish her nest. This is the male. Males are smaller than females and have similar markings. Males don't appear to play much of a role in nest construction or provisioning. Cerceris nigrescens is most likely North America's most widely distributed Cerceris. Nigrescens is on the small side for the genus. Females measure roughly 8 to 10 millimeters and the males about 7 to 9 millimeters. 56 years later, in 1912, Nathan Banks, working at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, published Notes on the Eastern Species of Cerceris. Among his newly described species was one he named Cerceris halone. Cerceris halone is a medium-sized black wasp with a slender body and bright yellow markings. Females have a clypeal process that curves like a saddle, creating something of a nose. Males lack the clypeal process so distinct on the females. Males of this species are virtually indistinguishable from several others. If males cannot be acquired alongside a series of females of one species, then males collected alone might be impossible to identify. Halone is on the large size for the genus. Females measure roughly 12 to 14 millimeters, and the males average about 9 to 11 millimeters. Just 1 year later, Banks described another species, this one from the mountains of western North Carolina, and he gave it the name atramontensis. Cerceris atramontensis is a small species found in the eastern U.S. and southern Canada. Female atramontensis lack the prominent clypeal process we saw in halone. Males, of course, are smaller and show an unremarkable clypeus. They are also virtually indistinguishable from several other eastern species. Females measure roughly 9 to 11 millimeters, and the males about 8 to 10 millimeters. By the middle of the 20th century, many species had been described. In 1965, Herman Scullin, working at Oregon State University, revised the North American species. He examined over 40,000 specimens and divided them into 77 species. This is the most recent revision of the North American species and the place to start to identify your specimens. Scullin provided good range maps. They can also be found at Discover Life. Your challenge with this genus is that you have many species in most areas of the country. Some of these species are quite distinctive and others are not. Range maps don't identify your specimen, but they do cut down your list. Size also varies considerably between species. Among these 4 eastern species, Fumipennis is the largest at about 15 to 16 millimeters, followed by halone at 14 to 15, atramontensis and nigrescens at about 8 to 10. Since females and males are morphologically unique, you will need to follow a separate key for each of them, so make sure you know what you have. Males have hair lobes on their clypeus, while females have some hair in that location, but not as dense or organized. Hair lobes on the males can be used to differentiate some species. Species show differences in the width of these hair lobes relative to the central hairless portion. As I've said, some males form indistinguishable groups, so any differences in males is helpful. Facial coloration can be somewhat helpful. Many differences can be seen in these photos. For example, 2 of the above have yellow on their scape. The male Fumipennis has no yellow on its clypeus. But add several more species to the mix, and the inconsistency of these marks across a species' entire range, and you have problems. What Scullin relies on is facial structure. In particular, the clypeus of the females show significant variation. Halone has a sharp, extended clypeal process. Its shape resembles the brim of a baseball cap. The illustrations here are from Margaret Shea, who was Herman Scullin's illustrator. The shape, yellow coloration, and large size makes this structure easy to see. Nigrescens has a similar process, but it slopes more downward. You would think at this point that all species would have these facial features, but the large Fumipennis has no process. First, the overall shape of her head is noticeably broad, but clearly the lack of any process at all can be easily seen. There are, however, other species who lack a significant projection. Atramontensis has only a slight process that does not project very much, and since it is black, it can be a challenge to see. It really appears to have no process at all. Well, that should get you started. Good luck. As always, a special thanks go to the internet resources that make these videos possible, including the Biodiversity Heritage Library, Discover Life, and Iowa State University's Bug Guide. Look for them online. How do I know they're your boys? Well, after they threw the acorns, they ran from that limb of the oak tree onto the birch, onto the poplar, and then onto your maple tree.